Do you know that the thoughts you carry to bed tonight could quietly raise your risk of a stroke before morning? No pain, no warning. You go to sleep feeling fine. And by sunrise, something inside your brain has changed. You wake up dizzy, confused, unable to move your arm or speak clearly. It happens silently, suddenly, and for millions of older Americans, it begins not with diet or exercise, but with stress. As a brain doctor, I've seen this too many times. Seniors who seem healthy, active, and strong, yet fall victim to a stroke overnight, triggered by hidden stressors they never recognized, not by smoking or alcohol, but by the quiet pressures that build inside the heart and bloodstream every single day. Financial worry, loneliness, restless sleep, caregiver fatigue. Each of these might seem harmless, just part of getting older. But inside your body, they're doing something far more dangerous, tightening your arteries, thickening your blood, and setting the stage for a silent stroke while you sleep. In this video, I'll reveal 7 hidden stressors that can quietly damage your brain overnight, and how to protect yourself before it's too late. So don't look away, because what you learn in the next few minutes could save your life, maybe even tonight. Before we dive in, if you haven't subscribed yet, I recommend you hit that button and turn on the bell so you never miss another health tip made just for you. If you enjoy this video, type 1 in the comments. If not, type 0 to let me know how I can make better content for you. 1. Worrying about money. Even when you think you're managing fine. If you're over 60, you probably know that stress doesn't always come from what you see or feel. Sometimes it lives in silence, in the quiet hours when you lie awake thinking about the bills, the taxes, the insurance, or whether your savings will last long enough. For millions of older Americans, this silent financial worry has become part of daily life. You don't shout about it, but it's there. In the tightness in your chest when you open the mail, in the way your heart skips when the news talks about inflation or Social Security. It feels harmless. You tell yourself, I'm just thinking ahead. But your body doesn't know the difference between thinking ahead and being under attack. When the brain senses financial fear, it releases a flood of stress hormones, cortisol and adrenaline, the same chemicals that surge when you're running from danger. At 60, 70, 80, your blood vessels are not as flexible as they once were. They no longer expand and relax as easily. Under the constant chemical assault of stress, those vessels begin to stiffen and thicken. The smooth lining inside, where your blood should flow freely, starts to grow rough and sticky. That's where the danger begins. Because when blood sticks, it clots. And when it clots, it kills. Each time you worry about whether the mortgage payment cleared or if you can afford your prescriptions next month, your heart beats faster. Your blood pressure rises. The arteries feeding your brain tighten just slightly, enough to slow the current of blood moving through them. When that happens over and over, night after night, it creates the perfect conditions for a stroke to strike silently in your sleep. You don't feel pain. You don't feel warning. One small clot forms, tiny, invisible. And as your pressure rises in the early morning hours, that clot travels upward. 1 second you're dreaming, the next your brain is fighting for oxygen. I once treated a patient named Alan, a retired factory foreman from Michigan, a man who never smoked, never drank, and walked 3 miles a day. But Alan worried about bills, about taxes, about whether his wife would have enough if he died first. His blood pressure monitor showed nightly surges, sharp spikes around 3 a.m. when he said he usually thought about the house payment. Then one morning, his wife found him slumped at the kitchen table, unable to speak. The scan showed a clot lodged in his left middle cerebral artery. the same type of clot that forms when chronic stress thickens the blood and inflames the vessel walls. Alan survived, but his words never returned fully. He told me later, tears in his eyes, "Doc, I worried about losing my home, and I almost lost myself." That's the cruel truth about financial stress. It doesn't just steal your peace, it steals your blood flow. It tricks your body into thinking you're in danger day after day until one night your brain believes it too. If you find yourself staring at the ceiling, replaying the same money fears, remember this: no number in a bank account is worth your speech, your memory, or your life. You can always rebuild finances, but you cannot replace a damaged brain. Set limits on worry. Don't check bills at night. Don't carry the day's fears into your bed. Talk to someone you trust, a family member, a friend, a financial counselor. Release the burden before it hardens in your arteries, because stress doesn't need sound to kill. It whispers through your bloodstream. It thickens your blood drop by drop until one night it's too late. And yet, money isn't the only silent killer. There's another form of stress that's just as dangerous, one that doesn't come from your wallet, but from your heart. It's something many older Americans face every day, often without realizing its power. It's loneliness. And what it does to your brain is even more frightening. If you're still watching and finding these insights helpful, please comment number 1 below to let me know you're with me. Now let's move on to point number 2. 2. Emotional isolation, feeling alone, even when you're surrounded. You don't need to live alone to feel alone. Many older Americans know that silence, that heavy quiet that fills a house after the children have moved away, after a spouse has passed, or after friends stop calling as often as they used to. You might sit in your favorite chair, the TV humming in the background, but the noise doesn't reach your heart. You tell yourself you're fine. You say, "I've always been independent." But deep down, a part of you aches. And that ache is not just emotional, it's physical. It's in your blood, in your heartbeat, in the small vessels inside your brain that silently tighten each time you feel forgotten. Loneliness is not a harmless feeling. It's a biological stress signal, one as powerful as hunger or thirst. When you feel emotionally isolated, your body enters survival mode. The brain releases cortisol and adrenaline, flooding your bloodstream as if danger were near. But there's no enemy to run from, no fight to end it. So those chemicals stay inside you, hour after hour, night after night, doing quiet damage that builds over time. Here's what that damage looks like under a microscope. Cortisol stiffens your arteries, making it harder for them to expand and contract. The lining of those vessels, smooth as glass in youth, becomes rough and inflamed, catching passing blood cells like tiny hooks. And when blood cells stick, they clot. When they clot, they block. And when they block the arteries that feed your brain, the result is a stroke, silent, sudden, and devastating. You may think loneliness can't kill, but science says otherwise. Researchers at the University of Chicago found that chronic loneliness increases stroke risk by nearly 30%. The CDC has linked social isolation in older adults to higher rates of heart disease, dementia, and even premature death. The brain interprets social isolation as physical pain. It reacts the same way it would if you were bleeding, with stress chemistry, inflammation, and vessel constriction. I once treated a woman named Joanne, 82 years old, a retired piano teacher from Arizona. She had no major health issues, didn't smoke, and stayed on her medications. But her husband had passed away 7 years earlier. "I talk to my TV more than people," she told me with a sad smile. Every night she ate dinner alone, then went to bed scrolling through old photos. Her blood pressure stayed high even on medication. One morning, she woke unable to lift her left arm. The scan showed a clot deep in her brain, a classic ischemic stroke, but the cause wasn't high cholesterol or heart disease. It was chronic stress, the physiological toll of loneliness. Joanne survived, but her right hand trembles now and she no longer plays piano. She once told me, "I thought loneliness just made you sad. I didn't know it could take away my music." That's the hidden cruelty of isolation. It doesn't shout, it whispers through your vessels, changing how your heart beats, how your blood flows, how your brain breathes. The quiet in the house seeps into your bloodstream until your body forgets how to rest. If you live alone, fight back. Call someone every day. Visit your local senior center, church, or community group. Sit with others, even if you don't talk much. The human voice, a laugh, a shared memory, lowers stress hormones and restores your brain's natural rhythm. Because isolation isn't just about being without people, it's about being without connection. And that absence, if left unchecked, can break the body as surely as any disease. But even those who aren't alone can fall into another kind of stress, one that doesn't come from silence, but from noise, the kind that seeps in through your screen, your TV, your phone, the constant stream of fear, anger, and outrage that never lets your mind rest. And what that does to your brain while you sleep might surprise you. 3. Late night news and social media stress. The silent storm inside your brain. For many older Americans, the day doesn't end when the sun goes down. It ends with the television, glowing in the dark, flashing headlines of tragedy, anger, and fear. You might not even realize it, but as those stories fill the room, they also fill your mind. Maybe you watch the late news to stay informed or scroll through Facebook to see what's happening with family and friends. But what feels like a simple evening habit is, in truth, a quiet assault on your nervous system. It keeps your brain trapped in a cycle of stress, one that doesn't sleep even when you do. Here's what happens inside your body when you take that stress to bed. The moment you react emotionally, maybe to a frightening story or a heated political debate online, your brain releases adrenaline and cortisol, the same fight or flight chemicals it would send out if you were facing real danger. Your heart rate rises, blood pressure surges, and your blood vessels tighten. For younger bodies, those systems recover quickly. But after 60, your arteries are stiffer, your blood thicker, and your heart slower to calm. That means the storm lingers long after the screen goes dark. And while you think you're resting, your body is still on alert. Cortisol levels stay elevated, your breathing becomes shallow, and your blood remains slightly constricted. As the hours pass, that tightness in your vessels, that invisible pressure, becomes fertile ground for blood clots to form. The slower your blood moves, the easier it is for platelets to stick together. And once a clot forms, it only takes one sudden spike in pressure, one quick movement in your sleep, to send it traveling upward. It reaches the brain, blocks the flow, and in seconds, your life changes forever. No warning, no pain, just silence. I once cared for a patient named Richard, a 76-year-old retired police officer. Every night, he sat in his recliner watching late-night news until midnight, always shaking his head at what he called the state of the world. His wife said she'd hear him sigh and mutter in his sleep. One morning, she found him confused, his speech slurred, unable to lift his coffee cup. The scan revealed a clot, a small ischemic stroke that likely formed overnight. Richard had no heart disease, no diabetes. What he did have was chronic late-night stress and nightly blood pressure spikes that no one ever thought to measure. I thought I was just watching the news, he told me later, but the news was watching me back. Scientific research now confirms what I've seen in clinic after clinic. Emotional stress before bed keeps the nervous system in high gear, disrupting heart rhythm, impairing blood flow, and preventing the body from entering true restorative sleep. In seniors, this effect is magnified. When your vessels are already narrowed and your blood naturally thickens with age, that nightly surge of adrenaline can be the difference between a healthy morning and a hospital bed. So if you fall asleep with the TV blaring or your phone glowing on your nightstand, ask yourself, what kind of energy are you inviting into your sleep? Is it peace or panic? You cannot control the world's chaos, but you can protect your brain from it. Turn off screens an hour before bed. Let silence, not sirens, fill your room. Listen to soft music, read something uplifting, or simply breathe. Because your heart can't tell the difference between danger on the screen and danger in real life, it reacts the same way, and the price is paid in your bloodstream. Stress doesn't always come from what you feel. Sometimes it's what you absorb. And while screens may steal your calm, there's another kind of stress that's far more personal. It doesn't come from the outside world, but from the people you love and the weight of caring for them until you forget to care for yourself. If you're still watching and finding these insights valuable, please comment number 1 below to let me know you're here. Now let's keep going with point number 4. 4. Chronic caregiving stress. Giving everything, forgetting yourself. There's a kind of exhaustion that doesn't show in your face but lives deep inside your chest. It's the quiet fatigue of those who care for others every single day. The husbands helping a sick wife out of bed, the mothers now caring for adult children, the grandparents raising grandchildren when they should be resting. Across America, millions of seniors are caregivers. They give their time, their strength, and their hearts. But what they don't realize is that this unending devotion can quietly turn deadly. Because when you give everything away and never refill yourself, the body begins to break down. And it does so silently, cell by cell, vessel by vessel. Caregiving stress is unlike any other. It's not a sudden burst of panic. It's a slow, grinding tension that lives in the muscles, in the heart, in the blood itself. Every worry, every sleepless night, every moment of guilt for not doing enough sends ripples of stress hormones through your body. At first, you might think it's harmless, just tiredness. But beneath the surface, your brain and heart are fighting a quiet war. Cortisol floods your bloodstream day after day, tightening your arteries, raising your blood pressure, and thickening your blood. When blood thickens, it clots. And when it clots, it kills. You may not feel it happening. There's no alarm, no sharp pain, just a faster heartbeat at night, headaches that come and go, maybe a little dizziness when you stand up. But inside, the vessels feeding your brain are under siege. The more stress you carry, the harder your heart has to work. That constant pressure weakens the vessel walls until one night they can't handle the strain. A small clot forms, born from the fatigue you never voiced. And when it travels upward, it blocks the oxygen your brain needs to survive. You wake up unable to move your hand, to speak, or even to remember what day it is. I'll never forget Marjorie, a 72-year-old retired nurse who spent 5 years caring for her husband after his stroke. She cooked his meals, lifted him from his chair, and woke every few hours at night to check on him. She never complained. "I'm fine," she used to say, smiling with tired eyes. But one morning, it was Marjorie who didn't wake up right. Her daughter found her sitting at the kitchen table, confused, her coffee untouched. At the hospital, a scan showed a clot deep in her brain. The doctors called it an ischemic stroke, the kind that forms when blood thickens under constant stress. Her husband held her hand and cried, whispering, "She gave everything for me. I didn't know it could take her life." That's the terrible irony of caregiving. The love that heals others can destroy you if you never stop to heal yourself. Research shows caregivers have 2 to 3 times higher risk of heart disease and stroke than non caregivers. Chronic stress keeps the body in a constant state of alarm, raising inflammation, thickening blood, and wearing down the vessels that feed the brain. Every sigh, every sleepless night adds up. If you are a caregiver, remember this: you are not a machine. You cannot pour from an empty cup. Take small breaks, even if it's just sitting outside for 10 quiet minutes. Let someone else help, even once a week. Rest is not selfish, it is survival. Because when you neglect your own heart, it forgets how to protect you. It beats harder, faster, until one day it fails under the weight of love unbalanced. And while caregiving stress drains the body, there's another kind of pain that attacks the soul, one that comes not from what you do, but from what you've lost. It's the grief you never speak of, the sorrow you think you've buried, but your brain remembers every tear you held back. 5. Hidden grief and unresolved loss, the pain that silently damages the brain. There are wounds that never show on the skin, yet they live deep inside the chest, quiet, heavy, and constant. For many older Americans, grief becomes an unwanted companion as the years pass. The loss of a spouse, a child, a lifelong friend, or even the slow loss of independence leaves an invisible mark that time doesn't always heal. You go on with your routines, paying bills, making coffee, keeping appointments, but inside something aches every day. You learn to hide it, to tell people, I'm okay, I've moved on. But your body knows the truth. Your heart still mourns, and your brain still feels that pain. And the cruel part is, grief doesn't just live in your memories, it lives in your bloodstream. When we experience deep emotional loss, the brain reacts as if the body is under attack. It releases stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline, flooding the system just as if you were in danger. These chemicals raise blood pressure, thicken the blood, and inflame the walls of your arteries. In younger years, the body bounces back quickly, but as we age, those vessels lose flexibility. They can no longer expand and contract with ease. So the pressure builds quietly, night after night. The blood moves slower, heavier, stickier. And when blood slows, it clots. When it clots, it kills. This is how grief, the kind you thought you buried long ago, can trigger a stroke without warning. It doesn't matter that you eat well or that you walk every morning. If you carry unspoken sadness in your heart, your brain carries it too, in every pulse, every heartbeat. Emotional pain becomes biological damage. It narrows the arteries, it destabilizes heart rhythm, and it silently increases your risk of stroke or heart attack. I remember Donald, a 79-year-old widower from Indiana. His wife of 52 years died of cancer, and he never truly spoke about it. He smiled at church, mowed the lawn, kept himself busy, but when he came to see me for dizziness and headaches, his blood pressure was dangerously high. He told me he often woke at 3 a.m. thinking about her, his chest tight, his breathing shallow. A few months later, Donald suffered a stroke while asleep. A clot had formed and lodged in the blood vessels that feed the memory center of the brain. When he recovered, he told me quietly, Doc, I thought grief just broke hearts. I didn't know it could break the brain, too. Studies now confirm what stories like Donald's reveal. Prolonged grief, especially when left unexpressed, can raise inflammatory markers in the blood, increase clotting factors, and lead to vascular instability. It's not all in your head, it's in your physiology. The body keeps score of every sorrow you never released. If you've lost someone, recently or decades ago, don't keep that pain locked inside. Talk about them, cry if you must, write letters, keep a journal, visit their favorite place, speak their name. Each tear shed is a release of pressure your arteries can't handle forever. Healing doesn't mean forgetting, it means allowing your body and brain to breathe again. Because what grief doesn't express, the heart suppresses. And what the heart suppresses, the brain eventually pays for, sometimes with your speech, your memory, or your very life. But grief isn't the only emotion that turns toxic when ignored. There's another feeling that simmers quietly in the soul, one that eats away at your peace and poisons your blood drop by drop: anger. Hidden, unspoken, unresolved anger that doesn't shout but whispers danger every night you go to bed. 6. Sleep deprivation and nighttime anxiety, when rest turns into risk. There's a moment in the middle of the night when the house is completely silent. No traffic, no television, no movement, just you and your thoughts. For many older Americans, that silence is not peaceful. It's heavy. It's filled with worry, memories, and what ifs. You stare at the ceiling, your mind racing from one thought to another. Will my heart hold up? Did I take my pills? What if I don't wake up tomorrow? You roll over, look at the clock. It's 2:47 a.m. You close your eyes again, but your chest feels tight. That's not just insomnia. That's anxiety taking over the body's most sacred time of repair. And for people over 60, that kind of stress-filled sleep isn't just exhausting, it's dangerous. When you lose sleep, even for a few nights, your body reacts as if it's under attack. The nervous system shifts into high alert, flooding your bloodstream with cortisol and adrenaline. Your heart beats faster, blood pressure rises, and your vessels constrict. Normally, sleep lowers blood pressure by 10 to 20%, giving your arteries time to rest. But when you lie awake, anxious, or restless, your body never enters that healing phase. The pressure stays high all night long. Your blood thickens. The platelets, the tiny cells that make blood clot, become stickier. And when that blood moves slowly through aging, narrowed vessels, it clots. And when it clots, it kills. That's why strokes happen so often in the early morning hours, between 3 and 6 a.m. It's the body's most vulnerable window, when blood pressure naturally surges as we transition from sleep to wakefulness. If your body never truly rested, if your blood stayed thick and your vessels tight all night, that morning surge can push a clot straight into the brain. You don't feel it coming. There's no pain, no warning. You just drift from one dream into another, one you may never wake from. I remember Nancy, a 76-year-old widow from Colorado, who told me, "I'm tired all the time, but I can't sleep." She said she'd wake up every hour, her mind racing. Her daughter noticed she'd become forgetful, easily dizzy. When Nancy finally agreed to a sleep study, it showed her blood oxygen dropping repeatedly through the night. Her body was trying to rest, but her mind wouldn't let it. 2 months later, she woke up unable to move her right arm. The scan showed an ischemic stroke, a small clot blocking blood flow deep inside the brain. She survived, but with weakness that never fully went away. Her neurologist's words were simple and haunting: "Your brain couldn't rest, so it broke." The science behind it is clear. Older adults who sleep fewer than 6 hours a night have a significantly higher risk of stroke and heart attack. Lack of sleep raises inflammatory proteins, increases clotting factors, and disrupts the body's ability to regulate blood pressure. Anxiety compounds this damage by keeping stress hormones elevated long after the worry has passed. Together, they create a perfect storm, a night where the body never truly shuts down and the brain pays the price by morning. If you find yourself trapped in that midnight cycle, take it seriously. Avoid caffeine after noon. Keep the bedroom cool, dark, and free from screens. Practice slow, deep breathing before bed, not because it's trendy, but because it tells your nervous system you are safe. Keep water by your bedside, stay hydrated, and never skip your evening medications. Most importantly, remember this: you are not lazy for needing rest. Rest is what keeps your brain alive because when the body can't sleep, the blood forgets how to flow. And when the blood forgets how to flow, the brain forgets how to live. But sleepless nights aren't the only threat that creeps in unseen. There's another danger, one that doesn't come from within your body, but from the choices you make before you close your eyes. It's the little pill you skip, the dose you forget, the routine you tell yourself can wait until morning. And that single choice could change everything overnight. 7. Skipping your heart or blood pressure medication. The one night that can change everything. For many older Americans, taking medication becomes such a daily habit that it almost feels automatic until one night when it doesn't. You're tired, maybe distracted. You tell yourself, I'll take it in the morning. It's only one missed pill, you think. What harm could it do? But here's the truth I've seen again and again in the hospital: that one forgotten pill can become the single most dangerous decision of your life. It doesn't take weeks or months to do damage. It can happen in a single night, quietly, while you sleep. Your blood pressure medication, your heart pill, your blood thinner, they're not just there to control numbers on a chart. They keep your arteries calm, your blood smooth, your heart steady. When you skip a dose, that protection disappears. As the night goes on, your blood pressure begins to climb, slowly at first, then sharply between 2 a.m. and 6 a.m., the hours when strokes most often strike. Your vessels, already stiffened with age, struggle to handle the surge. The inner walls crack, the blood thickens, and the platelets, those tiny clotting cells, start to clump together. And when that blood slows and thickens in the dark, it forms clots. And when those clots travel upward, they trigger strokes. Most people don't realize how fragile the balance truly is. The medications prescribed to older adults aren't optional. They're the thin line holding chaos at bay. They regulate your pressure so your brain doesn't suffer from the silent surges that come in the night. They prevent your heart from slipping into irregular rhythms that can send clots racing to your brain. Missing even one dose of a blood thinner like warfarin or a beta blocker can undo days, sometimes weeks, of stability. I'll never forget Harold, a 73-year-old retired truck driver from Wisconsin. He had mild high blood pressure, controlled perfectly for years with one small pill every evening. One night, while watching a ball game, he simply forgot. No big deal, he told his wife. I'll take it tomorrow. The next morning, she found him sitting on the edge of the bed, his face pale, words slurred. The paramedics rushed him to the ER. A clot had blocked blood flow to the left side of his brain. It happened sometime before dawn, during those vulnerable hours when blood pressure rises naturally. His doctor said quietly, if he'd taken that pill, this likely wouldn't have happened. Harold survived, but he never regained full use of his right arm. He told me later, Doc, I didn't forget because I didn't care. I just didn't think it mattered that much. And that's what makes this danger so cruel. It doesn't feel dangerous. It feels small, insignificant, harmless, until it isn't. For older adults, medication schedules are sacred. They keep your blood pressure steady, your vessels open, your brain alive. Missing just one dose allows your pressure to swing wildly, creating turbulence inside your arteries, the perfect storm for clot formation. And once a clot forms, there's no going back. The damage can happen before you even wake up. So make it impossible to forget. Keep a pill organizer by your bedside. Set an alarm. Ask your spouse or a friend to remind you, or use a weekly tracker. Whatever it takes, because your medication doesn't just protect your heart. It protects your speech, your movement, your independence. You've spent a lifetime building routines. Don't let one small lapse steal what you've worked for. The truth is, your brain doesn't care how busy you were or how tired you felt. It only knows whether it received the protection it needed. And as frightening as that may sound, there's one last threat that makes all of these risks worse. Something hiding not in your body, but in your environment. It's the chill in the air, the wrong kind of pillow beneath your neck, the way cold seeps into your blood while you sleep. And it might be the final trigger your brain can't afford to ignore. Final wake-up call. Protect your sleep, protect your brain, protect your life. At this stage in life, your sleep is no longer just about rest, it's about survival. Every night, your brain fights to repair itself, to clear toxins, to balance pressure, and to keep blood flowing through the fragile vessels that keep you alive. But the truth most seniors never hear is this: those quiet hours can be the most dangerous hours of your day. It's when your blood pressure rises naturally, your oxygen dips, and your body is least prepared to fight back. That's why so many strokes happen between midnight and dawn, not because of bad luck, but because of silent habits that build over time. Each stressor we've talked about, the financial worry, the loneliness, the endless news, the caregiving exhaustion, the hidden grief, the sleepless nights, and the skipped pills, they all lead to the same deadly pattern. Stress hormones rise, blood vessels tighten, blood thickens, and clots form. And when those clots move, they trigger strokes. It doesn't matter how healthy you eat, how carefully you exercise, or how many vitamins you take. If your nights are filled with stress, your brain is never truly safe. But here's the good news: it's not too late. The brain is remarkably resilient, even in our later years. With the right choices, you can reverse much of this risk. You can train your body to rest, your heart to steady, your blood to flow smoothly again. It starts with awareness. Tonight, before you close your eyes, ask yourself a few simple questions. Am I calm? Did I take my medication? Did I give my body peace instead of pressure? These are not small details. They are the difference between waking up to a new day or not waking up at all. So from this night forward, let your bed become a place of healing, not harm. Keep your head gently elevated, your room warm but not cold, your mind free from noise and worry. Forgive the past, let go of guilt, and allow your body to rest the way it was designed to, in peace. Because every heartbeat you protect in the night is one more memory, one more morning, one more laugh with the people you love. Your sleep is your strongest medicine. Your calm is your best protection. And your choices tonight may be what save your tomorrow. Because in the end, it's not about how long you sleep, it's about how wisely you sleep. And when you protect your sleep, you protect your life. These lessons are meant to inspire you to live fully and authentically. Now, I'd love to hear from you. Take a moment to reflect and share one thing you've learned and plan to apply in your own life. Let's support each other on this journey toward embracing these truths. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a comment with 1. If not, feel free to comment with 0. Your feedback means a lot to us. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more content like this. Thank you for watching, and here's to living life on your own terms.